Well, welcome to the 700 Club. Lindsey Graham is taking heat from fellow Republicans. The senator has proposed a federal bill banning abortion after 15 weeks.
The bill is dividing Republicans who believe states should decide the issue. Graham contends that abortion is not a states' right issue, but a human rights issue. CBN's Matt Gulka spoke with Senator Graham at the Capitol.
Senator Lindsey Graham's 15-week abortion ban legislation caught some on Capitol Hill by surprise and even caused some Republicans to slowly back away from the idea of federal abortion legislation. Still, the senator hopes that the issue unites Republicans in the lead-up to November's midterms. Graham's proposal is one of the most significant pieces of legislation Republicans have put forward since the decision overturning Roe v. Wade, making abortion a state issue. He maintains it still would be, even with a national 15-week ban on the procedure. Is that hypocritical, though? And what I mean by that is that for 50 years we did hear from pro-life groups about it should be a state's choice. By taking away part of that choice, does that go against the argument we've heard for decades?
I don't think so. I think abortion is not a state right. A baby is not a states' rights issue. It's a human right issue.
Democrats quickly pounced as they see abortion rights as a winning issue for them in November.
The American people do not want politicians in their bedrooms and their doctor's offices. They do not want Lindsey Graham to make health care decisions for them. They want to make their own decisions.
Graham's move also led to a split with some of his fellow Republicans.
Well, I do believe it should be left to the states. That was a point of the Supreme Court decision. With regard to Senator Graham's bill, I think the fact of the matter is our Democratic colleagues don't believe in any restriction on abortion up until the time a baby is delivered. That's an extreme point of view, not shared by any civilized place on the planet. I believe that that's the contrast that he was trying to communicate.
Graham feels his colleagues would ultimately vote with him if it ever came to that.
I'm trying to say abortion on demand should stop then because the baby can feel pain. Science tells us when you poke the baby, it responds. Can you imagine what kind of death it would be to be dismembered by an abortionist? I'm trying to stop that. And you know what? If people are okay with abortion up to the moment of birth, they can vote that way. I'm not okay with that. And I'm going to push back. And I think a lot of people listening to this program are glad that people are going to push back. If we don't stand up for the 15-week-old baby, who is?
Pro-life groups celebrated the proposal, with some seeing it as an issue Republican candidates can use to take back control of Capitol Hill.
I think that this legislation is really coming at an ideal time for those who are running for federal office, especially for the U.S. Senate, so that they can say, hey, this is a first step that we can all get behind.
Senator Graham admits that he knows with the current makeup of the Senate, his bill likely would not get a floor vote, but he's confident that could change with a new Congress. At the Capitol, Matt Gulka, CBN News.
I don't think there are the votes right now in the U.S. Senate to make a change. But here's the best news, and it's great news. The Supreme Court decided that Roe versus Wade was not based on constitutional grounds. That's been an argument from constitutional scholars since it was decided that Roe was wrongly decided, and it created a right that does not exist in the Constitution. You have to read it into the Constitution as opposed to it being there. Now what happens is you and I get to decide, and we get to vote. It's a tough issue, and we shouldn't turn away from it being a tough issue. And we need to let our voices be heard. And the best part of it, we get to vote on it and vote for our elected representatives and tell them how we feel and what we want them to do. That is a free democratic republic. That's what we are, and let's put it into practice. In other news, a railroad strike that could have crippled the economy has been averted, and that is some fantastic news. Ephraim Graham has that story and more from the CBN Newsroom. Ephraim?
Gordon, just hours before the deadline, the railroad companies and workers reached a deal. In an early morning statement, President Joe Biden thanked both sides for reaching a tentative agreement that will, quote, keep our critical rail system working and avoid disruption of our economy. About 60,000 workers were set to go on strike. The last sticking point was sick leave.
just trying to get us some sick time to be able to take care of, one, ourselves, and two, our loved ones. You know, we chose to be married and bring children to this world, and that's what we're fighting for, is to quality of life.
A third of the nation's freight is moved by rail. A shutdown would have cost the economy an estimated $2 billion a day, backing up an already sluggish supply chain and putting greater strain on the trucking industry. With grain stuck in silos, the nation's food supply was also at risk, not to mention passenger rail, as Amtrak had already shut down some lines in fear of a strike. Social media giants are facing scrutiny over threats to national security. Major big tech representatives in the hot seat Wednesday, taking questions from the Homeland Security Committee. The chairman accusing social media sites of intentionally sending users dangerous content that may fuel domestic terror.
Unfortunately, because these platforms are designed to push the most engaging posts to more users, they end up amplifying extremist, dangerous, and radicalizing content.
Former executives from Meta's Facebook as well as Twitter testified to the committee, warning YouTube, Twitter, Meta, and TikTok are not dealing with harmful material on their platforms and putting profits over safety.
I lost my trust with the companies of what they were doing and what Meta was doing. I think we should move beyond trust to helping our researchers and journalists understand the platforms better.
The former executives are also calling for transparency rules, but efforts to regulate social media have stalled in Congress. The social media platform Instagram responded to public pressure over a popular porn site. It recently removed the Pornhub account from its platform. This comes after an outcry from advocacy groups and victims of sexual exploitation. Those groups say it never should have been on the site in the first place. Now they're focusing on the Justice Department to do more to protect victims of the sex industry. Charlene Aaron is on this story.
Prior to its removal, the Pornhub account had amassed more than 13 million followers. Critics say while the account did not share pornographic content on Instagram, as a whole, it facilitates child sexual abuse, sex trafficking, and the grooming of young children. They're applauding Instagram for finally shutting it down.
They opened an investigation when our group started sending them evidence of criminality. They don't want to partner with known sex traffickers and hosts of child sexual abuse materials.
Dawn Hawkins serves as CEO of the National Center on Sexual Exploitation. In 2019, her group, along with activists and survivors, called on Instagram to remove the Pornhub account. The major reason, she says, was because of the material on child sexual abuse, sex trafficking, filmed rape, and non-consensual content.
No mainstream corporate entity should be partnering with sex traffickers.
Layla McElwaite, CEO of the Justice Defense Fund, recently tweeted, Instagram Meta made the right decision by cutting ties with Pornhub. Meta now joins Visa, MasterCard, Discover, PayPal, Grant Thornton, Heinz, Unilever, Roku, and many other companies in refusing to do business with Pornhub, a site infamous for monetizing the sex trafficking and criminal abuse of countless victims, including children. Hawkins says a major problem is that big tech companies are not forced to safeguard those spending time on their platforms.
And as a result, we see that kids are exposed to explicit material as well as so much other harmful content. We need these companies to prioritize safety and health of all of their users, and that includes removing explicit material like this.
The National Center for Sexual Exploitation maintains the Justice Department could do more, simply by enforcing laws already on the books.
These are the sites where anyone can upload content. It breaks numerous existing federal laws, including our federal obscenity laws, our child sexual abuse or child pornography laws, and our sex trafficking laws. And yet the Department of Justice has done nothing to go after these websites.
While Hawkins and others praise Instagram's decision, they say the work of restoring victims is far from over.
Many of them are just completely traumatized because the worst parts of their life have been filmed and recorded, and now they're being seen by hundreds, even sometimes millions of users who then download and reshare it.
Charlene Aaron, CBN News.
Seems the law always trying to catch up to regulate technology. Gordon?
Well, I applaud what Dawn Hawkins is doing, and she's being successful where other attorney generals have not been. And to actually get Instagram to remove one of these sites is, I just applaud what she's doing. This is really, really good. In my lifetime, Ed Meese tried to do it as the Attorney General under Ronald Reagan. John Ashcroft went after child pornographers when he was the Attorney General in the Bush administration, and the Supreme Court said, well, unless you can absolutely prove that the individual in the video is underage, and the well-funded porn industry was mounting a vigorous defense saying, well, what about fakes and all of that, and you can't prove it, so you can't take us down, and we have free speech. It would be wonderful to see a Department of Justice say, well, let's try this again. Maybe the Supreme Court will say protecting children is more important, that the certain kinds of speech are not absolutely protected. You don't have a right to exploit people for profit. Sex trafficking also exists in these online videos. Let us try as a culture and a society to change it. Will it happen in this administration? I would love to see it, but I don't think they're going to take it on, and it's primarily because the previous attorney generals have tried. But that doesn't mean you stop. Let's protect the children involved here. Let's do whatever we can to help them.